Kakadosh, Boker Or, Masechet Gittin Daf Zayin Amud Aleph 37 A1. The Gemara was just speaking about what is the lashon of pruzbul. So he said it was going to be a takana for the rich and for the poor. Bule is the ashirim because it's Shabbat going to and also bule, right? The booty is the aniyim. So Amale Rava Lila Oza, Rava came and he told somebody that he speaks lashon la'az, which is not Hebrew, right? My pruzbul, what is pruzbul? Amarle, he told him pursa de minta, takanat adavar, which means pruz is a takana. Okay? Minta is something. So it's right, dvarim, davar. So he comes and he says it's a takana shel davar. So that's what it means, pruz. Pruz before we explained was a takana. Okay? Fine. Amar Rav Yehuda Meshmuel says, Meshmuel, Yetomim en tzachim pruzbul. Do you know that Yetomim don't need a pruzbul? Why? Is Rav Gamliel and his Bedin, those are the fathers of Yetomim. Meaning like this. What is the concept of a pruzbul? You give over your debts to the Bedin. A Yatom, automatically, his debts are giving over to the Bedin. So since therefore their debts are automatically given over to the Bedin, so automatically you don't need a pruzbul for the Yetomim. Taran Hatam, we learned over there in a Mishnah. You only write pruzbul on karka. That means if you have a piece of land. And if he does not have karka, you have to be mezakeoto, any amount within his field. Which means that in order for you to write a pruzbul, it cannot be that you only have tangible assets. You have to have a piece of land. But then you're going to say, okay, Rabbi, but I don't have a piece of land. So what do you do? So no, you're right. We're going to be mezakeotcha. We're going to give you a little tiny piece of my field. Now you have kilo piece of land. Now that you have a piece of land, now you could write a pruzbul.
That's the lender.
Yes. The kama kolshu. How much is kolshu? Even mamash, how do you call the kelach? You've got the Amar of Yehuda, says of Yehuda, afilu ishilo makom letanur kiraim. Even if they lend him. So now here, it's not only that you gave him. Even if you lend him a place to put the tanur v'kiraim, kotfim alav pruzbul, you already read it. So nowadays, everyone has something of a place to put an oven, basically. So therefore, that's it. That's already enough. But here, even if they lend it to you. So it says, any, is it so? Vatani Hillel taught, en kotfim pruzbul al etzitz nakuv bilvad. Only on an etzitz nakuv, which means that it's mechubar la-karka, meaning you have to have karka. Nakuv in and nakuv lo. Only if it's nakuv, not if it's. That means if it doesn't have the hole and it doesn't get nourishment for the ground, you don't do that. So my why? You have the place where you were able to put that seeds. Answers the Gemara lo tzricha de mana chasike. You put it on top of pegs, and therefore the land does not belong to you. So therefore, since the land does not become to you, that's why you can operate. So basically, in order for you to write a pruzbul, you have to have land. Rav Ashi, right? That's what we said, because we're going to be mizaket to everybody to make sure that they have land, or even if you have to lend, right, in order that you have somewhere where to put your oven, that's already enough. Rav Ashi makni legidma de dikla. Rav Ashi, he was zikna lelove, right, a geza shel dekel, katzutz, which is mechubar lekaka, and then he went and he wrote the pruzbul. Okay? So again, in all these things, right, by the way, we're talking about the love has to have karka, not the malve. Right? I don't know if that came up. So says the Gemara, but I thought that Hillel says that you're only going to write on etzitz nakuv bilvad. If it has a nekuv, it has a hole, then yes. If it doesn't have a hole, no. So he said, no, you put it on top of pegs, so it's not on any type of a land. Rav Ashi makne legidma dedikla. So Rav Ashi came and he was makne to the love a dekel katzutz, which is mechubar lekarka. So basically, he was mamash. He was makne lo just a dekel. Right, a dekel which was even katzutz. I mean, there was a palm tree that was already cut down. He already amaknedze. This palm tree belongs to him, and now he writes a pruzbul. Rabbanan de Rav Ashi mase milai huladadi. So the Chachmei Yeshiva of Rav Ashi, they used to give their words balpet to each other, which means they wouldn't actually write the pruzbul. They used to say it over to each other without even writing it. Rabbi Yonatan Masar Mile. Rabbi Yonatan gave the words of the pruzbul to Rochei Baraba. Amar le'tzicha midachrina. Right? Do I need anything else? Amaleh, he says, no, you don't need, which means that it comes out that you don't even have to even write it. You could just give it over, right? Like orally, you don't have to do anything. Tanu Rabbanan, we went to the Braita. En lo karka, right? Vele'arev yesh lo karka. What happens if the borrower does not have the land, but the guarantor has the land? Meaning, again, one more time, since there's no field here, there's no collateral. But sometimes they could take an arev. What's arev? So, for example, right, he wants to borrow money from me. He doesn't have a piece of land. So what happens? I come and I say, okay, but bring me an arev. So he brings me Jerry, right? Right? He brings me the Tom brings me Jerry, right? So what happens is, right? So what happens is that now all of a sudden, right? He's gonna bring me the arev. He doesn't have a piece of land. So he says, you could write the pruzbul, right? Lo vela arev. But what happens now if it's also him and also the arev? They don't have karka. So he says, right? Elaim karka, v'chayav lo, right? And to somebody else, he's going to be chayav yesh lo karka. Kotvim alav pruzbul. I mean, that means it comes out like this. If somebody else is chayav to the loveh kark, and then he has karka, right? So they're going to write down a pruzbul midre ben Natan, like Rabbi Natan. Everyone understood the case one more time. John Paul, right, owes me $1, right? That's beseder. No, John Paul, you owe me $1. Okay, right now, right? I owe, right, Jerry $1. Okay, right, and he owes Tom $1 million, right? No, but it's okay, right? So what happens is that $1, $1. Now, I owe the $1, right? You owe me the $1, right? Chazak Baruch. Okay, but now, do you have karka? You don't have karka. So now, technically, we can write the pruzbul, right? The arev, your arev, was Mordechai. He also doesn't have karka. So what happens? So also, you can write the pruzbul. But what happens now if Tom owes you the $1 million? And what happened is that he does have karka. He does have karka. So therefore, what happens? Which one is with the chassid? He has karka. Then he owes you the money. So it means even though you don't have karka and your arev does not have karka, meaning your guarantor does not have karka, you yourself doesn't have karka, but the fact that he owes you and he does have karka, it's a shibud of the Rabbi Natan because he owes you the money. So since he owes you the money and he has karka, like land, it's kilu that you have land. And ever since kilu you have land, I could write a pruzbul on you because he has land and he owes you. That's what we just said. Because of Rabbi Natan. What is Rabbi Natan? The time we learned in the Braita, Rabbi Natan Omer. Rabbi Natan says, Minayin lenoshe bechavero maneh bechavero bechavero, minayin shemotzim mizeh v'notzrim lezeh. Right? Everyone understood the case. Right? How do we know? Temulomar v'natan la'asher asham lo. Which means that you have the rights to correct directly from the other person. Right? Which means, I right now, right? I owe whatever it is. Let's say he owes, right? Jerry owes Tom owes me. So what happens, right? So what happens is I could go directly to him. I don't have to go in a circle. You understand? I could go directly to the original guy. Okay? Fine. Tanan Hata, we learned over there in the Mishnah, right? Ashvit mishametet et milveh ben bishtar ben shlo bishtar. Do you know that Shemitah cancels out the loan? Doesn't matter whether there was a debt document or without the debt document. Meaning it's always going to cancel out the loan. Rav and Shmuel Dami Tabai, Rav and Shmuel both said, bishtar, we're talking about a shtar sheish bo achrayut nechasim. We're talking about a document that has achrayut nechasim. Right? That means it's only going to be that it's written achrayut nechasim. Shelo bishtar, but if there's no shtar, shem bo achrayut nechasim. It's talking about that there's no achrayut nechasim, which means that there's no lien. Okay? Kol shekem milvel peh. All the more so milvel peh. Rabbi Yochanan Shakish Dami Tabai bishtar shtar shem bo achrayut nechasim. Shelo bishtar milvel peh. Aval shtar sheish bo achrayut nechasim neshemet. But if it's got achrayut nechasim, it does not cut off, which means that according to what we just mentioned now, let's say you had a lien on the property, it does not cancel it out. Because it's a shtat, sheyeshu achrayut nechasim, which means it's got a achrayut, it's got a guarantee. Tanya kavatet Yochanan Shimon ben Lakish, shtar chov meshamet, v'im yesh bo achrayut meshamet. So the same thing. Meaning, if it's just a document, it's going to cut it off. But if it's got a lien, then no. Remember, if it's got achrayut nechasim, means that my property is a lien onto the debt. Okay, so then it's not going to be mishamet. Tanya idach, we learned in another brayta. Siem lo sadeh achat balvato. What happens right now if he showed him, right, one karka, right, to collect from it? That's like kavanah. Siem lo sadeh achat balvato. Eno mishamet. It's not going to be mishamet because since I went and I showed you this is the field that is kilu the achrayut, the lien for the loan, so it's not going to be mishamet. It's not going to cut it off. The Lord, and not only that, elafilu katav. Elafilu katav. But even if he's going to write all the properties are going to be proper and it's going to be an arev for you, it's not going to cut it off, right? It's not going to cut it off as well.
We get it.
So the family members of Ravasi had a document that was written Achriyut Nechasim. They came from Ravasi, Amaleh, and he told him, Mishamet or Mishamet, does it cut it off or not? Amaleh, he told him, Eno Mishamet, it's not going to cut it off. Shavke, he left him. He came from Yochanan. Amaleh, he told him Mishamet, it does cut it off. So Ravasi came from Yochanan, Amaleh, and he told him, Mishamet or Mishamet? Mishamet. He says, you were the one that said it's not Mishamet. Meaning, they came to me, I said no. But I was quoting you. Now they come to you, you said yes. I don't understand. You're the one that said no. So he says, Amaleh, he says, well, just because we come in Svara, we compare different things, I'm going to do a Maaseh to do that. Amaleh, he says, more, but we have a brighter like you. Amaleh, he says, maybe it's Bet Shammai, they would say, according to Shita Bet Shammai, he holds that a document which is going to collect for, it's kilu that's already collected. So because of that, it's already going to be collected. Fine, next. Tznan Hatam, we learned over there in the Mishnah. Somebody's going to lend money, right? Ma'ot al mashkom. And you're going to give over your shtarot to Bedin and Mishamtin. So that means again, why? Because first of all, you have a mashkom, you have a collateral. Number two, if you give over your debts, your documents to Bedin. So therefore, what happens? It doesn't cut it off. Bishma, I understand Bedin, which means that it's kilu the Bedin have it. So it's like a puzmul. It makes sense. But malve al mashkom, my time out. If you're going to be malve al mashkom, what's the reasoning why you're going to say it's not mishamit? Samarava Rava says mishum because you have it in your hand. Meaning, let's say I took this as a collateral. The reason why it doesn't mishamet is because I have the debt here. You're right. I don't have the money. I've got a collateral, but it's like I've got the money in my hands. So that's why it's like it. Okay. So he says, Amale Abai says, Ela Minata, we're going to ask the following question. Hilvahu v'dar v'chatzerot d'taf islay. He says, 1 second right now, if a person comes and he lends somebody on condition that he's going to live in this field as a mashkom, but you're going to tell me now that it's not going to be mishamet? Right? For sure, it's nothing to do with it. Meaning that I'm lending you money, but I say, you know what, I'm going to stay in the room that you have in your house. He says, what is it? Amaleh, he says, Shanin mashkom. Mashkom is different because you actually acquire the mashkom. Rabbi Yitzchak, like Rabbi Yitzchak. Rabbi Yitzchak says Rabbi Yitzchak, how do we know the Balchov is Kone Mashkon? What does that mean? Right? Which means that to do with the giving over the ksut laila, it says Hashev tashiv lo ta'avot ulchat tzedakah lifnei Hashem. What does that mean? Im eno koneh, if you don't acquire it, why is it considered tzedakah? Mikan lebalchov shekoneh mashkon, which means that here we're giving you a chidush. You came and you borrowed money from me. I come and I say, I need a collateral. You give me your clothing. And the clothing, which is a ksut laila, which is like your pajamas, that's considered the collateral. Says the Torah, I should give it back at nighttime. Why? It's going to be considered that he did tzedakah. Says, why tzedakah? Says, you know what tzedakah? Because technically speaking, that clothing is not mine. I acquired that clothing when you gave it to me as a collateral. And therefore I'm doing tzedakah when I come and I give it to you to use it in a lifetime. So that's a proof that what? That I actually acquire the collateral. And that's why he's saying that that's why it's not going to be mishamet. It's not hatam. We learned over there in the Mishnah, right? 37b. Hamachzir chov lechavero b'shvit. If you're going to come and you're going to give back a chov to your friend during Shemitah, tzarich shiomar lo mishamet ani. You have to tell him. Meaning, let's say you didn't do a foods blue, you didn't do nothing, and I come and I say, by the way, here's the money back. You have to tell me. Aval mishamet ani. V'imamar lo, and if he tells him no, afal pichen, I still want to pay you back. You're allowed to receive it. Right? You have to say the words mishametani. Those are the devarim that you have to say. To say mishametani, I'm cutting it off. Amar Rabba says that tali liad amarachi. So why don't I force him? Why don't I force him? Which means that if he comes and he says mishametani, right? He's going to be mitcharet to actually pay him back. So therefore, he could just hang him on the tree until he says afal pichen. Right? Meaning, I come and I say, listen, David, I had to cut it off. Yeah? So you're going to say, okay, thank you. No, but they expect it back. Right? I'm going to force you in whatever way possible until I get the money back. Right? Like the school did. Yeah? Sometimes I want that. So he comes and he says, 8 So that's what you're allowed to do, basically. Okay? 8 Abaya comes and he asks the following question. When he's giving him the money, don't say, I'm giving it to you as my chov. But he has to tell him, Shalihin, really by meant they're my money, I'm giving you a present. Meaning because mitzad the chov was cancelled out by the Torah. So I cannot give you the chov. I cannot give you the debt. What am I allowed to give you? I'm only allowed to give you as a present. Amaleh, he says, you should say, right? It comes out that you could also do the same thing, which means he could actually hang him until he actually says this, right? And he could actually force him to do it as like kilo as a present. Abba bar Marta, right? The who Abba bar Menyume. Abba bar Marta, that he is actually Abba bar Menyume. Right? He had Rabba, right, an amount of money that he lent him. So they brought Abba bar Marta to Rabba, the Shvit. Amale, he said, Mishametani. Shaklinu vazil. So he took it and he left. So Abaye came and he found Rabba that he was upset. Amale, he says, why are you upset? Amale, he told him, this is a story. So he went to Abba bar Marta. Amale, and he told him, did you bring money to Rabba? Amale, he says, Amale, what did he tell you? Amale, Mishametani. He said, like, close it off. Amale, he told him, but did you tell him Did you tell him still you want to pay him? Amale, no. Amale, he says, if you would have told him he would take it from you. Now at least bring it to him. And tell him. He took it. Amar, he said, right? Right? I wouldn't have, he says what? A person like you shouldn't have said that from the beginning. Right? That you should have said, you should have said it. You still, I want to pay you. At the end of the day, I want to pay you. I'm going to Rav Nachman. Says Rav Yudah name of Rav Nachman. You know, a person is allowed to say that he had a pruzbul and it got lost. Imagine you come to, but you don't have a pruzbul. I had it, but it got lost. You're believed to say that. My time, what's the reason? But since the rabbi is in pruzbul, nobody's going to leave by a ted and grab an isur. When they came in front of Rabbi, he told them, what, did you have a pruzbul? This is called ptach picha le'ilem, which means you're actually opening up the mouth for the mute. Here, the guy didn't say anything. You're asking him, by the way, did you have a pruzbul? Yeah, okay, very good. So where is it? I got lost. But I gave you the tana, meaning I gave you the answer, okay, of what's going on. Yeah? Imagine right now you take out a shtar chov and you don't have a pruzbul. You don't have to pay it back. Right? So it says the Gemara tonight, it's actually machlok tonight. The Tanya was learned in the Braita. So there's machloket, you have to actually present the pruzbul with the debt document or not. It's a machloket, right, between Chachamim and the Tanakama. Mishnah Lamzayim Ubet. Eved shenishba ufdauhu. If Eved Kenani was captured, right now he belongs to the Jew, he was captured, and then another Jew redeemed him. Im leshum Eved yishtabed. If he went and he redeemed him as a slave, he becomes a slave. But if it's going to be for ben chorin, lo yishtabed. He does not become yishtabed. Rashbag omer ben kach uben kach yishtabed. It doesn't matter what, he's going to be yishtabed. Everyone understood what happened? One more time. Somebody has a slave, right? And what happened is they captured him. Another Jew comes and redeems him. So now, if he redeemed him to be his own slave, he becomes his own slave. If he redeemed him to be a free man, he cannot be worked or whatever it is. Exactly, yeah? Now,
then he's a free man.
Which one?
If he redeems him to be a free man, then he...
It says the Gemara, b'mayaskin, and what we're dealing with, if you're going to tell me that before the first owner gave up hope, the shum ben chorim, azamaylo yishtaber. If he went right now and he became, imagine right now the other Jew came and he freed this guy. Why can he not go back to the original owner? It was before Yush, right? So the other Jew was a good Jew. He came and he freed this guy, and now go back to the original owner.
Second guy paid. Why is he going to go back?
But rather, we're talking about after the first owner already gave up hope. So if he bought it as a shum eved, so then amay yishtabed. So then why is he going to be mishtabed to the first owner if he already gave up hope? Answers the Gemara. Abaye says, "Lo lifnei yush." Really, we're talking about before yush. L'shum eved yishtabed l'rabo rishon. If he bought him as an eved, so then he goes back to the original owner. V'leshum ben chorim. But if he ransoms him to become free, he cannot go back not to the first owner, not to the second master. The Rabbo Shanim law, why? Because he freed him to become a free man. And the Rabbo Rishon also not. Dilma mimanev lo parke, because maybe then people will not come and free the slave. So he does not go back to the original one either. Rashbag says, Ben kach u ben kach yishtabed. He does go back, right? Because according to Shitat Rashbag, just like there's a mitzvah to ransom someone, that he's a free man, there's a mitzvah to ransom a slave. Meaning that people shouldn't be slaves like that. So the slaves like that meaning like mamash captured. So we're not talking about a slave. There's a slave, that's his job. But here, no, we're talking about like mamash like captured. Okay? Rava comes and he says, Leolam, really be'emet, la'achad yush, we're talking about after yush. U'shum eved yishtabel l'rabo shanim. When it says that it's going to be for an eved, it means that he's going to be an eved for the second master, not for the first one. The shum ben chorim, he doesn't go back not the first one, not to the second one. The rabo shani hu delo, he doesn't go back to the second one because he ransomed him to become free. And to the first one, he doesn't go back because it's going to be after you. Rashbag says, he is mishtabed to the first one, like Chizkiah. But Chizkiah says, why did they say mishtabed? Why do we say that he always goes back to the original owner? You know what the best way to get out of being a slave is? What do? You run. You see that there's bandits coming. You run to them. You break free from where you are. You break out, run to them. Now you become a free man. Why? Somebody's going to come. He's going to redeem you.
If someone comes to pay the ransom.
Many times they come and they usually pay the ransom. And then what happens? They get them free. So he says, in order that we don't do that, that's why he still has to go back to the first original owner. Because if not, then every slave will do that. Mm-hmm. Every slave will do a trick. Right? They'll come, they'll throw themselves there.
There's a lot of ifs.
Okay.
There's a lot of ifs.
No, not a lot of ifs. Usually they were ransomed.
But if you go to the bandits, what's your life going to be also?
Okay, you're saying you're putting yourself in danger, but technically speaking, it might be his only way out. You might take the danger. That's a woman. Fine, it's a woman. We're not talking about a woman. Matevei. So we ask the following question. Elmaleh Rashbag comes and he says, just like there's a mitzvah to come and to free a free person, so too there's a mitzvah to come to free a slave. I understand according to the Bible we're talking about before Yush, and that's why he says Keshem, right? Which means that he went against the Chachamim and he said, what? Just like there's a mitzvah to redeem a free person, there's a mitzvah to redeem the slave. But according to Rabbi, that he says that we're talking about after Yush, what does it mean Keshem? That means what we're doing? Just like there's a mitzvah to free a free person, there's a mitzvah to free a slave. What does that do with it? It's only because of Chizkiah, meaning it was a special takana that we didn't want that slaves are going to run in front of bandits in order to get captured, in order to free themselves. So that's why we didn't let this happen. So Rabbi comes and he answers you. Rashbag, according to Oziel, they don't know what the Rabbi said. This is what they said. If it's going to be before Yush, right? Hainu Keshem. So then that's like Keshem. But if it's going to be after Yush, then it's like Chizkiah. Meaning there's two different reasons. If it was before Yush, so therefore, just like there's a mitzvah to free a free person, there's a mitzvah to free a slave, and therefore it was before Yush, and therefore it's going to go back to the
Yush from the first owner.
From the first owner, right? And if you're going to tell me now that it's after Yush, right? If it's going to be after Yush, so then the only reason why it would be was because of Chizkiah. That means that according to Chizkiah, the reason why you would go back to the first owner is, but one thing, but it's after Yush. It says no, because we don't want the slaves that are going to do this purposely. So because of that, we come and say, no, go back to your original owner. It was after Yush. Doesn't mean go back to your original owner. Or Rava, but according to Rava, he says after Yush, Rabo Shani, what does that mean? That he's going to go to the second owner. Rabo Shani, who's he acquiring it from? He's Shabai, from the bandits. Shabai Gufami, how did the bandits acquire it from? The bandits stole him. Meaning, you're acquiring something from someone else. So it says the Gemara, yes, Kanun el Maseh Yadav. They did acquire him for Maseh Yadav. Shakish, but says Shakish, how do you know that if you're going to have an Oved Kochavim which is going to acquire another Oved Kochavim from Maseh Yadav, how do you know that works? Meaning you're not actually acquiring the slave. You're acquiring his hands of work for the slave. This is Maseh Yadav. שנאמר בזה בפסוק, וגם הנה התושבים קונים מכם, והם תקנו. אתם קונים מהם, ולא הם קונים מכם, ולא הם קונים זה מזה.
חזק וברוך.